Autumn evenings in Ridge Valley usually brought a sense of peace. The town, with a population of 85,000, lived a quiet life. Not too small for everyone to know each other by sight, but not so large that one could get lost in the crowd. It had its own university, hospital, shopping centers, and industrial zone, but it still retained the atmosphere of a place where people still greeted their neighbors and knew the names of the salespeople in local stores. Emily Chen sat at her desk in the central library, looking through the list of new arrivals. At 24, she had been working as a library assistant for 3 years, and her colleagues valued her for her neatness and willingness to help visitors. Tall and slender, with long dark hair that she usually wore in a neat bun at work, Emily came across as a serious and focused young woman. Are you staying late again today?" asked Linda, the senior librarian, as she gathered her things. "No, I'm just finishing up," Emily replied, typing quickly on her computer. "Simon is picking me up at 6. Linda smiled. Everyone at the library knew about Emily's romance with Simon Moore. They had been dating for 3 years, and many considered them the perfect couple. Simon regularly stopped by to pick up Emily after work, always polite, always with flowers on Fridays. He worked as a mechanic at Premium Auto, one of the largest auto repair shops in town, and his reputation as a master craftsman was known far beyond Ridge Valley. At exactly 6 o'clock in the evening, a battered but well-maintained pickup truck pulled up to the library. Simon Moore got out of the car, a strong man of 27 with short blonde hair and kind eyes. He was wearing a work uniform with the car service logo, but he had taken the time to wash his hands and comb his hair. "Hi, beautiful," he said, hugging Emily at the library entrance. "How was your day?" "The usual. Lots of cataloging," she replied, getting into the car. "How about you?" "Mr. Thompson's old Chevy's jaw broke. Took me 3 hours, but I fixed it." Simon started the engine. "Listen, I was thinking maybe we could have dinner at home tonight. I bought some steaks." Emily tensed for a moment. "Simon, remember I told you I had a meeting with Jessica today? We were planning to go to the movies." "Oh, right." Simon nodded, but there was a hint of disappointment in his voice. "What movie are you going to see?" "We haven't decided yet. Something light, probably." They drove through the familiar streets of Ridge Valley. The town was getting ready for the evening. Yellow lights were coming on in the windows of houses, and families with children were returning from their walks and appearing on the sidewalks. Simon stopped at the small 2-story house they had been renting together for a year and a half. "What time will you be back?" he asked as they climbed the steps to the porch. "I'm not sure. Maybe late. Don't wait up." Emily kissed him quickly on the cheek and headed to her bedroom to change. Simon went into the kitchen and took a beer out of the refrigerator. He loved Emily with all his heart, but something had changed in recent months. She had started going out more often in the evenings, citing meetings with friends or additional training courses. When he offered to drive her or pick her up, she always found reasons to decline. "Simon, have you seen my black handbag?" Emily called from the bedroom. "It's on the table in the hall." He could hear her moving around the house, getting ready. 20 minutes later, she came downstairs, and Simon was slightly surprised. Usually, when Emily went out with Jessica, she dressed casually, jeans, a sweater, sneakers. Today, she was wearing an elegant black dress that he had only seen a couple of times before and high heels. "You look very beautiful," he said. "Is that an outfit for the movie?" Emily hesitated for a second. "Jessica wants to go to that new bar on Main Street after the movie. You know how she likes to look stylish." "I understand." Simon hugged her. "Have fun, but be careful, okay?" "Sure." Emily kissed him, but the kiss felt rushed, distracted. "See you tomorrow morning." After she left, Simon sat down in front of the TV with a steak and a beer, but he had no appetite. He turned on the news, but his mind was elsewhere. Emily was definitely hiding something. It was obvious from the small details: how she avoided his gaze when she explained her plans, how nervous she got when he asked follow-up questions. Simon had met Emily 4 years ago in the same library, where he had gone to look for technical literature on engine repair. She helped him find the books he needed, and they struck up a conversation. He immediately liked her seriousness, her intelligence, and the special depth in her eyes. They started dating a month later, and Simon was sure he had found the woman of his life. Emily wasn't the kind of girl who flirted with everyone she met. She was reserved, sometimes even withdrawn, but she opened up with him. They talked about everything: the books she was reading, his work, their plans for the future. Simon dreamed of marriage, children, and a house they would buy on the outskirts of town. But over the last 6 months, something had gone wrong. At first, the changes were almost imperceptible. Emily started staying late at work, citing additional projects. Then she started making evening plans with her friends. Then she started receiving calls that she wouldn't answer in front of him, retreating to another room. Simon wasn't suspicious by nature, but he wasn't stupid either. At the auto repair shop, he had seen enough men whose wives were cheating on them, and the signs were always the same: secrecy, unexpected changes in schedule, changes in appearance and behavior. But on the other hand, Emily didn't seem like the kind of woman who would cheat. She was devoted to their relationship, often talked about the future and made plans. Maybe he was just being paranoid? Simon's phone rang. It was his best friend Mike, who worked with him at the repair shop. "Hey buddy, want to come over to the old tavern? They're showing the game tonight." "Thanks, but I'm at home. I'm tired today." Emily went out again? There was a hint of mockery in Mike's voice. "Yeah, to the movies with a friend." "I see." Mike paused. "Simon, I don't mean to pry, but are you sure everything's okay between you two?" "What do you mean?" "No, it's just that you've been acting kind of tense lately. And Emily, I don't know, she seems different somehow." Simon felt his stomach tighten. "Mike, if you know something, just say it." "I don't know anything, honestly. It's just an impression. Maybe you should talk to her?" After talking to Mike, Simon couldn't sleep for a long time. He lay in the bed he shared with Emily, trying to figure out what was going on. On the one hand, maybe he was really just getting worked up over nothing. On the other hand, his intuition was rarely wrong. At 1 o'clock in the morning, he heard the sound of keys in the lock. Emily entered quietly, clearly trying not to wake him. Simon pretended to be asleep and listened to her moving around the house. He heard her take a shower, which was strange if she had just been to the movies and a bar. Usually, after evenings like that, she went straight to bed. When Emily lay down next to him, she smelled of expensive perfume that he didn't recognize. It wasn't her usual scent. "How was the movie?" he asked quietly. Emily flinched. "I thought you were asleep. The movie was good, a comedy." "What was it called?" The pause was too long. "I don't remember exactly, something about relationships." Simon lay in the dark and realized he could no longer ignore the obvious. Emily was cheating on him. The only question was how serious it was and why. The next morning at breakfast, they barely spoke. Emily was rushing to work and Simon watched her, trying to understand how the woman he loved so much had become such a mystery to him. "I might have to work late today," she said, gathering her bag. "New books have arrived and I need to sort through them." "Okay," Simon replied. "Can we have dinner together tomorrow night? Is that okay at home?" "Sure." Emily kissed him on the forehead. "See you later." After she left, Simon sat in the kitchen for a long time with his coffee growing cold. He made a decision. It was time to find out the truth, whatever it was. Jessica Wright sat in the Sunrise Cafe on the corner of Oak Street, nervously twisting a napkin. She was late for work at the insurance company, but her meeting with Emily couldn't wait. When her best friend finally appeared at the door of the cafe, Jessica knew immediately from her face that something was seriously wrong. "I'm sorry I called you out of the blue," Emily said, sitting down across from her, "but I needed to talk to someone." Jessica had known Emily since college. They were complete opposites. Jessica was a sociable blonde who could befriend anyone, while Emily was reserved and introspective. But it was these differences that made their friendship so strong. "What's wrong? Problems with Simon?" Jessica asked. "He's getting suspicious," Emily said quietly. "Yesterday he asked too many questions about the movie we supposedly watched. I barely managed to get out of it." Jessica sighed. She was the only person in Ridge Valley who knew the truth about Emily's double life. A year and a half ago, when Emily started having serious financial problems due to student loans and her sick mother's medical bills, Jessica accidentally found out how her friend was making extra money. I've told you 1,000 times. This can't go on forever. Simon's not an idiot." "I know," Emily said, ordering coffee with trembling hands. "But I need a few more months. My mom is almost done paying off the hospital bills, and I'm almost done paying off my student loan." Jessica looked at her friend with pain. Emily was one of the most honest people she knew. It broke Jessica's heart that circumstances had driven her to such extremes. The story began 2 years ago when Emily's mother was diagnosed with cancer. The treatment was extremely expensive, even with insurance. Emily worked full-time at the library and moonlighted at a bookstore on weekends, but it wasn't nearly enough. College loans also needed to be paid off. "Do you remember how it started?" Jessica asked quietly. Emily nodded. She would never forget the day when a well-dressed middle-aged man walked into the library and asked for help finding a rare art book. They struck up a conversation, and he invited her to dinner. Emily declined, but he left his business card and said he would pay generously just for her company at a business dinner. At first, that's exactly what it was. She accompanied wealthy men to business events, playing the role of an intelligent and attractive companion. The money was good, and Emily convinced herself that she wasn't doing anything wrong. But gradually the boundaries began to blur. The clients wanted more, and Emily needed the money. She set clear rules and boundaries for herself, but reality proved more complicated than her theoretical principles. How much longer, Em? How much longer can you hide this from Simon? A few months? 6 months at most. Emily rubbed her temples. My mom's last round of chemotherapy is in December. If all goes well, she won't need any more treatment, and I've almost paid off my student loan. Jessica understood her friend's motives, but she also saw how this double life was destroying her. Emily had become nervous, suspicious, and often sad. Most importantly, she was lying to the person she loved. "What if he finds out?" Jessica asked. "He won't. I'm careful." Emily, listen to yourself. You've been living with a man for 3 years. You're planning to get married, and he has no idea who you really are. "I know who I am," Emily replied sharply. "I'm a woman who is doing everything she can to save her mother's life. I'm not a drug addict or a criminal. I'm just in a difficult situation." Jessica took her friend's hand. "I'm not judging you. I'm just scared for both of you." Meanwhile, Simon stood under the hood of the old Ford, trying to focus on his work, but his thoughts kept returning to Emily. The night before, while she was asleep, he had checked her phone. It was low, and he felt terrible about it. But he needed to know the truth. The phone was almost empty, too empty. The call history had been deleted, along with the messages. It was even more suspicious than if he had found something compromising. "Simon, are you okay?" Mike asked, approaching with a wrench. "You've been staring at that engine for half an hour like it's done something to you personally." "Yeah, everything's fine," Simon lied. "Problems with Emily?" Simon straightened up and looked at his friend. Mike had been working with him for 5 years, and they trusted each other. "Mike, if your girlfriend started acting strange, what would you do?" "Strange? Like what?" "Constant absences, secret phone calls, lying about where she's been, and..." Simon paused. "Money." "Money? Yesterday I noticed she had more cash in her wallet than usual. Quite a lot more, and she doesn't make much at the library." Mike whistled. "Dude, that doesn't sound good." "I know, but I can't believe Emily would do that." "Simon, listen. I don't want to upset you, but a year ago I saw Emily downtown. She was coming out of an expensive hotel with some guy in a suit. I thought maybe it was work, but..." Simon felt a chill spread across his chest. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure what it meant, and because I didn't want to ruin your relationship based on my suspicions." The rest of the workday passed in a fog. Simon went through the motions, but his mind was elsewhere. By evening, he had made up his mind. When Emily came home, she looked tired and tense. "Hard day?" Simon asked. "Yes, lots of work." She went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. "How about you?" "Fine." Simon watched her. We need to talk." She froze with a bottle of water in her hands. "About what?" "About us. About what's going on between us." "What do you mean?" Simon approached her. "I feel like you're hiding something. You've changed in the last few months. Constant absences, secret phone calls, all these meetings with your friends. Simon, you're jealous for no reason. Then explain to me where you got the money." Emily turned pale. "What money? Yesterday there was more cash in your wallet than you earn in a week. And it's not the first time. I have a side job." "Where?" "Translations. Freelance. Translating from Chinese for local companies." It sounded plausible. Emily was fluent in Chinese thanks to her immigrant parents. But Simon sensed that she was lying. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to think I was a failure, that my salary wasn't enough for us." Simon hugged her. I don't care how much you make. I just want honesty between us." "I know. I'm sorry." Emily buried her face in his shoulder and he could feel her shaking. They made up, made love, and Simon almost believed that everything was okay. Almost. The next day, Emily was stuck at work, again. Simon decided to check. At 7 in the evening, he drove to the library. The building was closed, the parking lot empty. He drove to Jessica's house. Maybe Emily really was there? When Jessica opened the door, she looked surprised to see him. "Hi, Simon. Is something wrong?" "Hi, Jess. Is Emily home?" "Emily? No, she's not here." "That's strange. She said she had a meeting with you." Jessica hesitated. "We met earlier today, for coffee." "I see." Simon studied her face. "Do you know where she is now?" "I don't know. Maybe she's still at work." The library's closed. There was an awkward pause. Simon realized that Jessica knew something. "Jess, if you know what's going on with Emily, please tell me. I'm worried about her." "Simon, it's none of my business. You need to talk to her yourself." When Emily came home at 10:30, Simon was waiting for her in the living room. "How did it go with Jessica?" he asked. "Fine. We had a nice chat." "That's interesting, because I stopped by her place around 7, and she said you'd seen each other earlier in the day." Emily froze. Simon could see her trying to come up with an explanation. "We met twice," she said finally. "In the afternoon and in the evening." "Emily, stop it." "Stop what?" "Lying to me." Simon stood up. "I know you're lying. I don't know what, but I can feel it, and it's killing me." Emily looked at him with the expression of a hunted animal. Simon could see that she was teetering on the edge, between truth and lies, between trust and secrets. "Simon, there are things you wouldn't understand. Try to explain." "I can't." "Why?" "Because then you'll hate me." Those words hit Simon harder than any suspicion ever had. What could be so terrible that the woman he loved was afraid to tell him? Whatever it is, we can work through it together." She shook her head. "No, we can't." That night, they slept in the same bed, but there was a gulf of unspoken words between them. Simon lay awake, realizing that he had reached a breaking point. Tomorrow, he would find out the truth, whatever it was. On Thursday morning, Simon woke up with a firm resolve. Emily had already left for work, leaving a note saying she might be working late again. Simon looked at the note and knew that today would be the day. He called the car repair shop and said he was sick. Mike didn't ask any questions. It was clear from his voice that something was seriously wrong with his friend. At 10 o'clock, Simon drove up to the central library and parked so that he could see the main entrance. If Emily was really working, he would see her through the windows of the reading room. If not, then the lie had gone further than he thought. Emily was there. Simon could see her through the large windows. She was sitting at her usual desk, helping visitors and arranging books. This reassured him, but only partially. The problem wasn't where she worked during the day, but what she did in the evenings. Simon drove home and began his search. He felt awful rummaging through Emily's personal belongings, but he had no choice. In her bedroom, in her nightstand drawer, he found a second phone, a cheap model he had never seen before. The phone was locked with a password, but Simon knew all the important dates in Emily's life. The third attempt was successful, her mother's birthday. What he saw on the phone turned his world upside down. Messages from different men discussing meetings, times, places, and prices. Photos of Emily in revealing clothes he had never seen before. Correspondence with someone named Victoria, who was clearly some kind of manager or coordinator. Today's client is at the Grand Plaza Hotel, room 412, business dinner plus escort, $800. Meet at 7 p.m. in the lobby. The message had been sent yesterday. That was when Emily had been working late. Simon sat on the bed, holding his phone, feeling everything he believed in crumble. Emily, his quiet, modest librarian, was a prostitute. The woman he planned to spend his life with was selling herself to strangers. He scrolled through the messages. They were dated more than a year ago. So it had been going on all this time, while they were living together, making plans, talking about love. One of the messages mentioned Jessica. Jess is worried that S is starting to suspect something. We need to be more careful. So Jessica didn't just know, she was an accomplice, helping to hide the truth. Simon felt rage mixed with pain rising in his chest. He loved Emily with all his heart, and she had played with him like a puppet. Every time she came home from work, she lay next to him, knowing she had just been with another man. The phone rang in his hands. The screen lit up. "Victoria," Simon answered, changing his voice. "Hello? Emily, you sound strange." "I've caught a cold." "I see. Listen, we have a great client today. Regular, generous, no fuss. Are you ready?" Simon clenched his teeth. "What are the details?" "The usual. The Ridge Hotel, room 205. Meet at 8. He asked for you specifically. He liked you last time. $1,500 for the night. $1,500 for one night. Simon earned that much in 2 weeks of hard work. "Okay," he said. "I'll be there." "Great. And Emily, wear that black dress he asked for. Talk to you soon." Simon put down the phone and realized he was shaking with rage. Now he knew not only the truth, but also what was going to happen tonight. Emily would come home, lie to him again, and then go sell herself to another client. But not tonight. Simon spent the rest of the day in a strange stupor. He walked around the house they rented together, looking at their photos, the gifts he had given Emily, the wedding plans she had drawn and hung on the refrigerator. It was all a lie. At 6 o'clock, Emily came home. She looked nervous, perhaps because Victoria hadn't been able to reach her after her morning call. "Hi," she said, kissing Simon on the cheek. "How was your day?" "Fine. I was feeling a little sick, so I stayed home." "Oh, poor thing. Is it serious?" Simon looked at her, unable to understand how she could lie so naturally. How could she pretend to care when she knew that in 2 hours she would be in bed with a stranger for money? "No, it'll pass. How are you?" "Fine. Lots of work." Emily went into the bedroom. "Listen, I have to go out tonight. Jessica asked me to help her move." "At 8 o'clock?" Emily froze in the doorway. "Yes, she's working until 7. Then she can come." "I see." Simon watched her get ready. Emily took a black dress out of the closet, the one the client had asked for. She spent a long time putting on her makeup and putting on expensive shoes that she clearly hadn't bought with her librarian's salary. "You look very beautiful," Simon said when she was ready. "Thanks." Emily kissed him. "Don't wait for me, I might be late." "Sure, help Jessica." After she left, Simon sat in the living room for another half hour, thinking about what he had done. Then he took his car keys and drove to the Ridge Hotel. The hotel was one of the most expensive in the city. Simon parked across from the entrance and waited. At 8:15, he saw a familiar figure. Emily was entering the lobby, elegant and beautiful in her black dress. Simon waited another 10 minutes, then entered the hotel. He knew the room number, 205, second floor. In the elevator, he shook with rage and pain. He knocked on the door. "Who is it?" a male voice asked. "Room service." The door opened, and a man in his 50s in a bathrobe answered. Behind him, Simon saw Emily sitting on the bed in her underwear, her face contorted with horror when she saw him. "Simon?" she whispered. The man turned around, realized something was wrong, and tried to close the door, but Simon was already pushing his way inside. "Hey, buddy. There's been some mistake," the client began. "No mistake," Simon said, keeping his eyes on Emily. "I'm here for my fiancé." Emily quickly put on her dress, her hands shaking. The client rushed around the room, not knowing what to do. "Listen, I didn't know she had a boyfriend. The girl said she was single." "Shut up," Simon snapped. Then he looked at Emily. "Get dressed. We're leaving." "Simon, I can explain. Get dressed. Now." The client handed Simon several $100 bills. "Listen, take the money and forget you were ever here. I don't want any trouble." Simon looked at the money, the very money for which the woman he loved had betrayed their relationship. Then he swung his arm and punched the man in the face. "Simon, no!" Emily screamed. The client fell, clutching his broken nose. "You're crazy! I'm calling the police!" "Go ahead," Simon said, "and explain to them what you were doing with a prostitute in a hotel room." The man fell silent. Simon took Emily by the hand and dragged her toward the exit. She didn't resist. She was in shock that everything had been revealed. They drove in silence. Emily cried, and Simon gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "How long?" he finally asked. "What? How long have you been cheating on me?" "Simon, answer me." "A year and a half," she whispered. "A year and a half." Simon repeated the words, trying to comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal. "A year and a half you've been sleeping with other men for money. It's not what you think. What is it? Enlighten me." Emily wiped away her tears. "I needed money. My mom has cancer, and the treatment is very expensive. I have college loans. I didn't know what to do. You could have asked me for help." "You're a mechanic, Simon. How much can you give me?" Those words hurt him the most. It meant that she thought he was a loser who couldn't provide for his family. "So it's better to sell yourself to strangers?" "I did what I had to do, by betraying me every day." They arrived home, and Simon realized he couldn't stay in the same house with her. Not now. "I'm leaving," he said. "Where?" "To Mike's. I need time to think." "Simon, please, let's talk. I can explain everything." "Explain what? How you lied to me every day? How you pretended to love me when you—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "I love you," Emily said. "I've always loved you. What I did had nothing to do with us." "How did it not have anything to do with us? You slept with other men. For money. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. And that's supposed to make me feel better?" Simon gathered a few things and headed for the door. At the threshold, he turned around. "You know what the worst part is? It's not what you did. It's that you thought I was so worthless that I didn't deserve the truth." After he left, Emily collapsed on the sofa and burst into tears. She knew this day would come, but she had hoped she could end it all before Simon found out. Now it was too late. The man she loved more than anything in the world knew the truth, and she could see in his face that he would never forgive her. Emily grabbed her phone and dialed Jessica's number. "Jess? He knows. He knows everything." "Oh my God, what happened?" "He came to the hotel. He caught me with a client." "Emily, I'm so sorry. What should I do? He left. He said he couldn't talk to me. Give him some time. Maybe he'll understand." "No." Emily wiped away her tears. "You saw his face. He looked at me like I was a whore." "Don't say that." "But it's true, isn't it? That's what I am in his eyes." Jessica didn't know what to say. She had seen how Simon treated Emily, with such adoration, such love. The destruction of that feeling must have caused him unbearable pain. "Maybe you should stop? Now, before it gets worse?" "I can't. I need a few more months. Mom needs treatment." Listen to yourself. What are you doing this for if you're losing Simon?" "For my mother. For her life." "What about your life? Your happiness?" Emily closed her eyes. "I'll figure it out. I'll fix everything somehow." But deep down, she knew there was nothing she could do to fix it. She had made her choice a year and a half ago, and now it was time to pay for it. Simon had been staying with Mike in his one-room apartment on the outskirts of Ridge Valley for 3 days. Mike tried to support his friend, but it was obvious that Simon was falling apart inside. He hardly ate or slept, lying on the couch all day staring at the ceiling. "Buddy, this can't go on," Mike said on Saturday morning. "You need to talk to her, or at least make some kind of decision." "What decision?" Simon asked hoarsely. "Forgive her? Forget that she's been selling herself to other men for a year and a half? Or break up for good? But you can't stay in limbo like this." Simon knew Mike was right, but he couldn't bring himself to act. Every time he thought about Emily, images flashed through his mind. Her in that hotel room, her frightened face when he burst in, the client in his bathrobe with money in his hands. On Saturday evening, Emily called him. Simon stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hi," she said quietly. "How are you?" "Bad." Simon, I need to see you. We need to talk. Talk about what? About us, about the future. I've made a decision. There was something in her voice that made Simon wary. What decision? Come home, please. It's important. Simon looked at Mike, who was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Okay, I'll be there. Thanks. I'll be waiting. Mike walked him to the door. Be careful, buddy. Don't do anything stupid. What could I possibly do that's stupid? I don't know. Just remember that she's hurting too. The house they rented together greeted Simon with silence. Emily was sitting on the living room couch where they had spent so many evenings watching movies and making plans. She was wearing no makeup, dressed in loungewear, and looked as if she hadn't slept in days. Hi, she said when he entered. Hi. Simon sat down in the armchair opposite her, not next to her as he used to. The distance spoke louder than any words. You said you'd made a decision. Emily nodded. I'm quitting. No more meetings, no more clients. It's over. Simon felt relief mixed with suspicion. Why now? Because I realize I'm losing you, and without you, nothing else matters. What about your mother, your treatment? We'll find another way. I'll take out more loans, find a second job. Anything but this. Simon looked at her and wanted to believe her. He wanted it to be that simple. It's not just what you did, it's that you lied to me. Every day for a year and a half. I know, and I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you 1,000 times, but you didn't. I was afraid. I was afraid of this reaction. And now what? I'm supposed to just forget and pretend nothing happened? Emily stood up and walked over to him. No, I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to give us a chance to start over. How can we start over after this? I don't know, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Simon looked at her face, sincere, full of pain and hope. Part of him wanted to hug her, to tell her he forgave her. But another part, the part that had been tormented by betrayal for 3 days, couldn't let her go. I need time, he said finally. I can't just flip a switch and forget everything. How much time? I don't know. Emily sat back down on the couch. Simon, I know I hurt you, but what we have is real. My love for you is real. How am I supposed to believe that? How can I believe anything after you've been cheating on me for a year and a half? Because I'm willing to prove it. How? Emily took out her second phone, the one Simon had found 3 days ago. Here. She placed it on the table between them. Take it. Delete all the contacts, or better yet, throw it away. Simon took the phone but didn't break it. That doesn't solve the problem, Em. Then what will? I don't know, he exploded. I don't know how to live with what I know. Every time I look at you, I imagine you with other men. It wasn't about me. It was about the money. It was about you, your body, your decisions. I did what I had to do. You chose money over our honesty. They shouted at each other across the living room, and Simon suddenly realized that this was their first real fight in 3 years of being together. They had never shouted before, always resolving their problems calmly. But before, there hadn't been such a gulf of lies between them. You know what? Simon said, standing up. I thought I was ready for this conversation, but I'm not ready. Where are you going? Back to Mike's. Simon, please, don't leave again. I need more time. How much? A week? A month? A year? I don't know. Emily stood up too. What if I say I can't wait any longer? What do you mean? I mean, I can't live in limbo. Either we try to fix this or we break up for good. Simon stopped at the door. Are you giving me an ultimatum? I'm just telling you the truth. I can't wait forever for you to decide if you can forgive me. So you're rushing me? I'm asking you to make a decision. Simon turned and looked at her. At that moment, something inside him broke completely. Fine. I've made my decision. Emily froze. And I can't forgive, I can't forget, I can't trust. It's over. The words hung in the air like a sentence. Emily turned pale. Are you serious? Absolutely. Simon, no more talking. I'll get my things tomorrow when you're not home. Wait. Emily approached him. Wait, please. I know I did something wrong, but... Wrong? Simon laughed bitterly. You call a year and a half of prostitution something wrong? Don't call it that. What else would you call it? I did what I had to do for my family. For money! You sold yourself for money! Yes! So what? I saved my mother's life. And you ruined mine. They stood face to face, and Simon saw in Emily's eyes the same rage that was boiling inside him. But then it changed. It became cold, almost contemptuous. You know what, Simon? Maybe you're right. Maybe we really aren't right for each other. What? I thought you loved me, really loved me, but it turns out your love is very conditional. Conditional? Yes. You only love me as long as I fit your idea of what your girlfriend should be. As soon as it became clear that I'm not the perfect librarian who reads books and bakes pies, you ran away. That's exactly what it is. You couldn't accept me for who I am with all my mistakes and difficult choices. Are you seriously accusing me of that? I'm accusing you of being a coward. When things got tough, you ran away. Simon felt a wave of anger rising within him. I ran away? You lived a double life for a year and a half, lied to me every day, and I'm a coward? Yes, because true love doesn't give up at the first sign of trouble. The first sign of trouble? You call prostitution the first sign of trouble? I did what I had to do. You did what you wanted to do. And don't talk to me about my mother. That was your decision. Go to hell, Simon. You go. And keep selling yourself if you like it so much. Emily swung her arm and hit him in the face. The blow was unexpected and painful. Simon stopped, holding his cheek, and looked at her. Emily stood with her hand raised, breathing heavily, her eyes burning with rage. You hit me, he said quietly. You deserved it. I deserved it? For judging me, for thinking you're better than me. I don't think I'm better. I think I'm more honest. More honest? Emily laughed maliciously. You want honesty? Fine. Honestly? Sometimes I liked it. Simon froze. What? You heard me. Sometimes I liked being with other men. They appreciated me, paid me, didn't judge me. You're lying. No, it's true. And you know what else is true? Some of them were better in bed than you. Those words hit Simon harder than a physical blow. He saw Emily's face, twisted with anger and a desire to hurt him. Maybe she was lying, trying to hurt him, but maybe she wasn't. Why are you saying this? Because you want the truth. This is the truth. Simon stood silently, digesting her words. Then he nodded slowly. Thank you. Now it will be easier for me to leave. He headed for the door, but Emily grabbed his arm. Simon, wait. That's not what I meant. Let me go. I lied. I didn't like it. I just wanted to hurt you. Let me go, Emily. No! She held his arm with both hands. I won't let you go. You can't just walk out on me. I can and I will. No! I won't let you destroy everything we had. Simon tried to pull his hand free, but Emily held on tight. Emily, let go. No. Let me go now. I said no. Simon jerked his arm away, and Emily lost her balance and fell. He turned to help her up, but she jumped to her feet, her face contorted with rage. You pushed me. You fell on your own. You used force. I was trying to get away. Emily moved close to him. You know what, Simon? Go away. But know this, you're losing the best thing you ever had. The best? Simon felt the rage rising in him again. You call lies and betrayal the best? I call love the best. What love? You don't know what love is. I don't? No, because someone who loves doesn't lie every day. And those who love don't abandon you at the first sign of trouble. The first? The first? Simon grabbed her by the shoulders. He wanted to shake her, to make her understand what she was saying. But when his hands touched her, something clicked in his head. Let me go, Emily said. You don't understand! He shouted, squeezing her shoulders harder. You ruined everything! All our plans, our whole future! Simon, you're hurting me. Hurting you? Didn't it hurt me when I found out the truth? Let me go! But Simon didn't hear her. Images were spinning in his head. Emily with other men, her lies, her words about how others were better than him. 3 years of love that turned out to be built on lies. You killed our love, he shouted, shaking her. You killed it! Simon, stop! 3 years! 3 years I thought you were… Simon. Emily tried to break free, but his grip was too strong. She stumbled backward, lost her balance, and fell, hitting her head on the edge of the coffee table. The sound of the blow was dull and terrifying. Simon froze. Emily lay motionless on the floor, a dark pool spreading beneath her head. "Em?" he called softly. She didn't answer. "Emily?" Simon knelt down beside her. Her eyes were open but unmoving. There was a trail of blood on the coffee table. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He tried to find her pulse, but his hands were shaking so badly that he couldn't feel anything. He leaned over her face. She wasn't breathing. "Emily, please, wake up." But she didn't wake up. Simon sat on the floor next to the body of the woman he loved, realizing that something irreparable had happened. He didn't want to kill her. He just wanted her to understand. But now it was too late. He didn't know how long he sat there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Then he got up, picked up the phone, and dialed 911. 911, what's happened? "I need an ambulance," he said, his voice shaking. "What kind of help do you need?" "My girlfriend, she fell. She hit her head. She's not breathing." "What's your address?" Simon gave the address. "Help is on its way. Can you perform CPR?" "Yes, I'll try." But Simon knew it was too late. Emily was dead, and he had killed her. 20 minutes later, an ambulance and police arrived at the house. Simon sat in the living room next to the body and waited. Sheriff Margaret O'Brien was the first to enter, a middle-aged woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She was followed by paramedics and 2 other officers. "I'm Sheriff O'Brien," she said to Simon. "Did you call for an ambulance?" "Yes." The paramedics bent over Emily's body but quickly realized there was nothing they could do. "She's dead," one of them told the sheriff. O'Brien looked at Simon. "What's your name?" "Simon Moore." "What happened here, Mr. Moore?" Simon looked at Emily's body and realized that his life had just ended. "We had an argument," he said quietly. "She fell and hit her head." "Fell?" "I grabbed her by the shoulders. She tried to get away and fell." Sheriff O'Brien examined the scene. There were no signs of a struggle, but there was blood on the coffee table, and the body was lying in an unnatural position. "Mr. Moore, do you understand that I must arrest you on suspicion of murder?" Simon nodded. He understood. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court." Simon listened to her words and looked at Emily. Even dead, she was beautiful, and he knew that despite everything that had happened, he still loved her. Now it didn't matter anymore. Monday morning at the Ridge Valley Sheriff's Office began with the most high-profile case in recent years. Sheriff Margaret O'Brien sat in her office, studying photos from the crime scene and the coroner's preliminary report. Dr. Robert Steele knocked on the door and entered with a folder in his hands. At 52, he was one of the most experienced coroners in the state, but today he looked particularly tense. "Preliminary autopsy results," he said, placing the folder on the desk. "Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with striking a hard surface. Death was almost instantaneous. Any signs of a struggle?" "Minimal. Small bruises on the shoulders consistent with hand grips. No damage under the fingernails, no other injuries." O'Brien nodded. "That fits Moore's story. What about the toxicology?" "The results will be in a few days, but preliminary findings show no signs of drugs or alcohol." Steele paused, then added, "Margaret, there's something else." "What?" "During the examination of the body, the victim was found to be wearing expensive underwear, and there were signs of recent sexual activity." O'Brien raised an eyebrow. "With Moore?" "No. Judging by the time frame, someone else. Several hours before his death." This discovery added a new layer to an already complicated case. O'Brien knew that Simon Moore had confessed to manslaughter, but the motive was still unclear. "Robert, are you okay? You look pale." Steele nodded quickly. "Yeah, I'm fine, just a tough case." After the coroner left, O'Brien called Detective Jim Harris to question the suspect. Simon Moore sat in the holding cell, staring at the wall. He hadn't slept all night, reliving the last moments of Emily's life over and over again. When he was brought into the interrogation room, he looked like a man who had already given up. "Mr. Moore," O'Brien began, turning on the tape recorder, "you've waived your right to an attorney. Are you sure?" "Yes." "All right. Tell me what happened last night." Simon slowly recounted the entire story, from discovering the second phone to the final argument. He didn't hide anything, not even the most painful details. So you found out about Miss Chen's additional activities a few days ago? Yes. And that was the reason for the argument? Not only that, she said things that made me angry. What kind of things? Simon fell silent. He didn't want to repeat Emily's words about other men. Mr. Moore, in order for me to understand what happened, I need all the details. She said that sometimes she liked being with other men, that some of them were better than me. O'Brien wrote this down. And after that, you grabbed her? Not right away. At first I tried to leave, but she wouldn't let me go, and then I just lost control. Did you want to kill her? No. Simon raised his voice for the first time. Never. I loved her. I just wanted her to understand how much she hurt me. But you used physical force. I grabbed her by the shoulders. I didn't push her or hit her. She backed away and fell. O'Brien studied his face. In her 20-year career, she had learned to distinguish between murderers and people caught up in tragic circumstances. Simon Moore was the latter. Mr. Moore, did you know anything about Miss Chen's clients? Names, contact information? Only what I saw on her phone. There were numbers but no names, and someone named Victoria. She seemed to be a coordinator. This was important information. O'Brien realized that the case might be more complicated than a simple family murder. After the interrogation, O'Brien drove to Jessica Wright's place. The victim's best friend often knew more about a person's secret life than their family. Jessica lived in a small apartment in the city center. When O'Brien rang the doorbell, a tearful young woman opened the door. Miss Wright, I'm Sheriff O'Brien. Can we talk? Jessica led her into the apartment. It was clear that she hadn't slept all night. I can't believe she's dead, Jessica said, sitting down on the sofa. And Simon? He loved her. Miss Wright, I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you a few questions. Did you know about Emily's other activities? Jessica fell silent, clearly struggling with herself. Miss Wright, Emily is no longer with us. She can't be hurt anymore, but I need to understand the full picture. Yes, Jessica said quietly. I knew. How long? From the beginning, about 1.5 years. And you didn't tell anyone? Of course not. She was my best friend. I couldn't betray her. Tell me how it started. Jessica recounted the story of Emily's mother's illness, the financial problems, the desperate search for money. O'Brien listened without judgment. Did she want to stop? Yes. She kept saying it was temporary, that as soon as Mom got better and the loans were paid off, she would quit. What about Simon? Did she plan to tell him? She was afraid. She knew he wouldn't understand. Jessica wiped away her tears. She said Simon was a good man, but very principled, that he sees the world in black and white. Do you know any of her clients? No, she never gave any details. She just complained when someone was particularly unpleasant. What about this Victoria? She's the coordinator. Emily found her online. I've never met her. O'Brien wrote down all the details. Miss Wright, did Emily seem troubled lately? Scared? Nervous. Simon was getting suspicious and she didn't know what to do. The last time we spoke, she said he found out. When was that? The day before yesterday. She was crying on the phone saying she'd lost him. After talking to Jessica, O'Brien returned to the station with a clearer understanding of the motives. But she still had questions about the escort service Emily had been working for. That evening, O'Brien received a call from Dr. Steele. Margaret, I need to talk to you in person. About the case? Yes, but not over the phone. They met at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Steele looked even more tense than he had that morning. What's wrong, Robert? I knew her, he said quietly. Who? Emily Chen. I was one of her clients. O'Brien felt her stomach tighten. When? A few months ago. 3 meetings in the last 6 months. My God, Robert, why didn't you tell me sooner? Because it would ruin my career, my family. O'Brien knew he was right. Steele had been married for 20 years and had 2 children. Tell me everything. I met her through Victoria. I was going through a rough patch in my marriage and felt lonely. Emily was special, smart, beautiful, not like other girls in this business. Did you know her motives? Yes. She told me about her mother, about the money. I felt sorry for her. When was the last time you saw her? A month ago. I decided to stop seeing her. I was trying to work things out with my wife. O'Brien considered the implications. Robert, this is a conflict of interest. You can't work on this case. I know. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but you have to step off the case immediately. The next day, rumors spread throughout Ridge Valley. The death of the young librarian became the main topic of conversation. Most people knew Emily as a quiet, decent girl, and the news of her double life shocked the town. At the library where Emily worked, her colleagues could hardly believe what they were hearing. It's impossible, said Linda, the senior librarian. Emily was so modest, so decent. Maybe it's slander, suggested another employee. Maybe Simon made it up to justify the murder. But the evidence was irrefutable. The second phone, the bank records, Jessica's testimony, everything pointed to the truth. At the auto repair shop where Simon worked, Mike felt guilty. I should have done something, he told his coworkers. I saw that he was suffering, but I didn't realize how serious it was. You couldn't have known, they replied. Who could have thought it would turn out like this? A week after the tragedy, O'Brien arrested a coordinator named Victoria. It turned out to be Victoria Sanchez, a 35-year-old woman who ran a small network of escort services. During questioning, she confirmed that Emily had worked for her for a year and a half. She was one of the best girls, Victoria said. Educated, beautiful, reliable. The clients loved her. Did you know about her personal life? I knew she had a boyfriend. She was constantly worried that he would find out. She said she would quit as soon as she sorted out her financial problems. Did she mention any threats from clients? Any problems? No. We have strict security rules. All clients are vetted. O'Brien received a list of Emily's clients. Among them were businessmen, doctors, lawyers, respectable middle-aged men, many of whom were married. Dr. Steele's name was on the list. A month later, Simon Moore appeared in court. He was charged with second-degree manslaughter. The defense attorney convinced the jury that his client had no intention to kill, that it was a tragic accident that occurred during a moment of intense emotional turmoil. The prosecutor painted a picture of a man who couldn't cope with jealousy and resorted to deadly force. Jessica testified in Simon's defense, describing how painful it was for him to discover the truth about Emily. He loved her, she said in court. It was obvious to everyone. He would never have hurt her on purpose. Mike also testified for the defense, describing his friend's state of mind in the days leading up to the tragedy. He was devastated, Mike testified. I had never seen him like that. He wasn't sleeping or eating. The discovery killed something inside him. The jury deliberated for 2 days. In the end, they found Simon guilty of manslaughter, but with mitigating circumstances. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Simon accepted the sentence without emotion. As the sentence was read, he looked up for the first time in months at the courtroom where Emily's mother, an elderly Chinese woman who had come for her daughter's funeral, was sitting. Their eyes met for a second. There was no hatred in her gaze, only endless sadness. After the trial, Dr. Steele submitted his resignation, citing personal reasons. His wife never found out about his connection to the case. Victoria Sanchez received a 3-year suspended sentence for procuring. Her escort service network was shut down, but everyone knew that similar organizations would reappear. Jessica moved to another city. She could no longer live in Ridge Valley, where every street reminded her of Emily. Emily's mother returned to California, where she continued her treatment. The money her daughter had earned allowed her to complete her therapy. She recovered, but the price of her recovery was too high. The house Simon and Emily had rented stood empty for a long time. No one wanted to live where the tragedy had occurred. The library hired a new assistant librarian, but Emily's colleagues remembered her for a long time, not as a woman who led a double life, but as a kind and responsive girl who had fallen into tragic circumstances. The car repair shop where Simon worked installed a memorial plaque in his honor. Despite the crime he had committed, his colleagues remembered him as an honest and hardworking man. Emily and Simon's story is a reminder of how secrets and despair can destroy love, how social prejudices can prevent honesty, and how a moment of anger can change many lives forever.